It's music therapy. It's music therapy.
Music Therapy with Brian Kroc.
Hello, everybody from beautiful Las Vegas, Nevada. Here, maybe I can show everybody what I'm looking at out my window. It's not that great. Welcome to another Q&A video. Let's get right into it. How do you feel about How do you feel about the marriage of classical orchestra and rock music? I don't like it. I don't like it. When I was younger, I was really into live albums by bands like Metallica with their album S&M. Whoa, guys, really clever title. Or Dream Theater's Score. I loved that live album. And I even used to check out stuff by like the Trans-Siberian Orchestra. It never really works for me. On the converse end of the spectrum, there's a lot of classical composers who sort of self-consciously try to incorporate rock and roll aesthetics into their music, and I'm not a huge fan of that either. I'm thinking of people like Mason Bates, Christopher Rouse, when a rock and roll band hires an orchestra to play with them, it just makes me wonder what their motivation is to do that. And I think more often than not, it's to evoke a sort of A, element of bombast, and B, it just seems that they're trying to sort of earn some classical music bona fides, like they're elevating their music to this high level that the symphony orchestra represents. I fundamentally reject the idea that a classical orchestra is more musically valuable or sophisticated than a rock band or than a jazz ensemble or any other kind of musician. There's a prestige that classical orchestras around the world have been marketing at us for decades and decades to sell us the idea that going to the orchestra is something dignified and cultured. And it is, but so is going to see your favorite metal band, or so is going to see a DJ or see an MC perform. It puts a bad taste in my mouth when I see bands trying to elevate their music somehow by working with a classical orchestra. More often than not, the orchestra in these situations is a prop. They're not doing much of anything. They're hiring an orchestrator to quickly make, 2.5 hours worth of charts for an orchestra. And of course, they're going to be working fast. And so they're going to be writing a lot of footballs, a lot of whole notes, a lot of unisons. And it's annoying. It's a waste of the talents of everybody involved. It's just a silly, strange thing to me. I don't get it, and I don't like it. All right, what a good start to this video. Where can I listen to some of your older music, like Fishwim? I really enjoyed it when I heard it in your Phoebe Bridgers video. Maybe I'll play a little clip of that band for you guys, just to go down memory lane for myself. It's been so funny when that Phoebe Bridgers video came out. I was really surprised by how many people wrote to me saying they loved the song Fishwim, and it made me really happy because I'm super proud of the music that I made with that band. Those are my best friends from when I was a kid. They were at my wedding. We used to take the bus home together and rehearse together like daily. We were obsessed with playing music together, and it was a part of life where we were just doing it because it was fun and we loved it. There was no other ulterior motive like trying to earn a living or make any money whatsoever. It was just something that we were passionate about, and I'm really proud of the record we made. So that being said, I think the only way it'll be available for the time being is if you sign up for my Patreon. The whole album is available there for my patrons. It's just a Google Drive folder and you can download it. Thanks for asking. What technique books or exercises, what technique books or exercises would you recommend for saxophone? Oof, I might have to stop doing that. I'm getting dizzy. All right, this one's easy. Sigurd Rascher, Top Tones for the Saxophone. That's a life-changing book for any saxophone player. I don't know a single professional saxophonist who hasn't spent a lot of time with it. Marcel Muel's various etude books are wonderful. But now let me give you my spiel about books, okay? During the many years of learning all the instruments that I play, I have encountered and spent a lot of time with a ton of very thick books that are full of scales and patterns. Some examples are The Guitarist's Grimoire, which I loved that book. I spent like 8 hours a day practicing guitar when I was in high school. The Complete Barrett Oboe Method is another one. The Closé book for clarinet. The Flutist's Vade Mecum is another great example. I'll show you pictures of them here. So here's the thing. Anybody who's studied privately with me will know that I am a huge advocate for making up your own exercises. If you come across a book that's filled with hundreds of pages of all the permutations of the major scales, you're wasting paper, you're wasting money, and you're wasting your time, because you have the power to come up with all of those exercises on your own. If you learn about permutations, which is just like, for example, if I have the series of numbers 1, 2, 3, 4. Now you can exhaustively come up with each combination of those numbers. 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 4, 3. And then you go 2, 1, 3, 4, 2, 1, 4, 3, 3, 1, 2, 4, 3, 1, 2, wait, shit. Anyways, you can come up with every permutation of any combination of pitches, and you should. So, use books, but also use your brain. Is that a good answer? Wow, I'm in a mood today. How did you approach learning to solo in a klezmer style for the band's visit? And does it make you think of anything you would do differently if you were to relearn the jazz language? Eileen, thank you for this thoughtful question. The answer, however, might be a bit of a bummer, because the truth is that I didn't learn how to solo in the klezmer style for my gig with the band's visit. I learned how to fake it really well. I only had about a month to learn the music, and it involves a lot of improvising in a klezmer style. So basically what I did was I listened to board recordings of my predecessors, Sam Sadigursky, who played the Broadway show, and then Evan Francis, who played the first run of the tour. And I transcribed their playing and tried to mimic it. The truth is that it's impossible to learn a whole language of music in such a short amount of time, and I'm still learning. I do plan to engage with the klezmer and Arabic music scenes in New York more often when I get back home. In the process of learning all this music, I discovered a lot of great clarinet players that I had never heard of before that have given me a lot of inspiration. To answer the second part of that question, I've always wished that I could be a more patient learner. Like when I was in college, I was the student who wanted to learn 5 new tunes every day. If I would have just limited myself to, say, learning 1 tune every week, or maybe even 1 tune a month, and really learning it deeply, I would be in a much better position today. Do you know or like any of Berio's works inspired by James Joyce? People who watch my channel know that I'm obsessed with James Joyce. Engaging with his work has been one of the transformative artistic experiences of my life, and I couldn't recommend it highly enough. However, I am very unfamiliar with most of Berio's work, so the answer is no. But you know what? Why don't I check it out right now and we'll see what I think. YouTube.com. Okay, this is the one I've heard of. Omaggio a Joyce from 1958. Let's see what it sounds like.
A sail. A veil away, so filtered, a spiked wine in cold, silent bliss.
This is out. This is really out. All right. Whew. Yeah, I dug that. It reminded me a lot of some of the tape experiments by Stockhausen or Boulez. That was written in the late 50s when a lot of Western classical European composers were experimenting with tape music for the first time. And so it sounds very dated to me. And it also sounds pretty nondescript. Like if you were to drop a needle in the middle of that piece, I'm not sure I would know that it was Berio who wrote it. As far as music that's inspired by James Joyce, it might be the most evocative of the experience of reading his work because it is very disorienting and confusing, but there are flows, assonances, patterns, meta patterns that you can kind of feel. And so overall, yeah, I would like to listen to that more. Thank you for telling me about it. I can't spin around anymore. I'm gonna puke. Any advice on how to get better at melodic and harmonic dictation for AP music theory? I have to tell you one caveat, which is that I never took AP music theory when I was in high school, so I have no idea what kinds of things will show up on that test. But I have taken a lot of melodic and harmonic dictation, and I taught it for a little bit to younger students when I was in school. So I think I know what works. I'm going to give you 4 tips. 1, sing along to music that you like often and proudly. You don't have to be a great singer. You don't have to have a good tone of voice in order to sing pitches accurately. It's really important that you try to make this fun. Don't think about it as work because you won't do it as often. Take the music that you love. And if that music happens to be Katy Perry, perfect. Sing along with Katy Perry every opportunity you have. If that music happens to be Lee Konitz, good luck singing along with that. But try, sing along. Number 2, transcribe music that you like frequently. I feel so strongly about that codifier there. It has to be music that you like. Do your schoolwork, but if your teacher's asking you to transcribe music that doesn't speak to you and it feels like a chore, that's telling you something about yourself as an artist, and you don't want to ignore that. You want to embrace that. There's various programs that you could Google that will slow down music for you. I don't know if this is still the case, but when I was a student, people would have a lot of pride about, well, I don't need to slow down music to transcribe it. Whatever, who cares? That's very impressive. I slow down music all the time, and that allows you to hear little details. 3, get some basic piano skills together. You don't need to have a piano in your house. You can get a little MIDI keyboard, and this will allow you to plunk through sheet music. Pick good sheet music to plunk through. For example, Bach's chorales or his 2-part inventions are approachable for pretty much any level of piano playing. You can do it really slowly. Just take each vertical beat, find it, and listen to it. Go slowly. Learn some piano. That's really going to help you. And number 4, start working on hearing music inside your head. If there's a song that you've listened to 100 times, try to sit there and try to hear that song in your head using your imagination. You can do it. In doing this, you're going to be strengthening your inner ear. And eventually what will happen is that you'll be able to look at music and you'll be able to correlate between what the music looks like and what it sounds like in your head. And there's something so profound and exciting, and it's like a key unlocking when you get to a phase where you can look at a sheet of music and kind of hear in your head what it's going to sound like before you ever play it or hear it. And then what's really, really cool is you're going to start to be able to make up music in your head. The more often you do this, the deeper it'll get and the more of a catalog of sound you'll have in your imagination. And then all of a sudden you're rolling, and it's really good for your ears, I promise you. And then finally, okay, I know I said 4, but I'm going to give you one more. Practice for your tests a lot. I don't know what they're going to be, but I'm sure they're going to give you packets of practice tests. Do all of them. Look at the ones that you got wrong and do them again. Just be a good student and you'll do fine. And you know what? I'll say one more thing. If you don't do fine on your AP music theory test, it doesn't matter. It won't matter at all. So don't let this AP test take an outsized importance in your heart and in your mind and stress you out. How does one get better at writing big band horn solis? First of all, I have to say that I'm an opinionated guy, and everything I'm about to say is just that. It's my opinion, in italics, in bold. This is just my opinion. In fact, I regularly get into heated debates with my friends and colleagues who are professional musicians about these types of things. There's no right or wrong answer. I'm just going to tell you what I think. First of all, if you don't know, a soli is a fully notated melody that's intended to sound somewhat improvisational, that is fleshed out, thickened, harmonized by a group of instruments. And if you want to know more about saxophone solis, actually the first video I ever made for YouTube is about a really great saxophone soli that was written by Billy Strayhorn for a Rosemary Clooney album. So here's what I think. A soli is only as good as its lead line, as its melody. So first and foremost, you need to learn how to write a really good melody. And that's not just going to come to you. The only way to do that is by listening to really great melodists. For example, transcribing a lot of Charlie Parker, a lot of Louis Armstrong, a lot of Coleman Hawkins. If the melody isn't good, it doesn't matter how good everything else is, because it won't work. Okay, so that's first and foremost. That's the most important thing. The secondary stuff, the thickening of the line, harmonizing each note, that's actually pretty straightforward and basic. It's pretty easy to do that once you learn it. So that's not going to take you too much time. You can read any number of great books that are out there. The book that I used was a Gary Lindsay book. I'll show it to you on the screen here. Secondarily, but still important, is to make sure that each instrument has to have a great melody for them to play. So that means don't have any weird intervallic leaps, don't have any strange repeated notes, don't keep the whole soli in a low register that's going to sound tubby and weird. Try to look at each individual part, and even better, play through them yourself and see, is it a good melody to play? If all the instrumentalists in a group that's playing a soli have a good melody themselves, the individual vertical instances of harmony are not going to matter so much. Go study the famous solis from your, high school big band repertoire, and you'll be surprised to see that sometimes the vertical harmony is a little weird. You won't hear it because it passes by in an instant. But if all of the instrumentalists are playing a good melody themselves, and they're able to lean into it and sort of enjoy playing it, it's going to sound better. Is your new music like your old music in that it's inspired deeply by metal? I'm not sure is the honest answer. I'm working on a new book of music for Big Heart Machine, and I'm very excited about it. However, the influence of metal that a lot of people were hearing in our first 2 records, that just came out because I have spent my whole life listening to metal, and I listen to a lot of different music, and I've been learning a lot of new music, and I have a feeling all of those influences are going to be in there somewhere. And at the moment, I'm spending my writing time sketching, seeing what emerges, and I have no idea what this record's going to be yet. What do you think of the music of Alice Coltrane? It's fucking awesome. Don't need to say any more about that. And I like this last question that comes from a precocious student of mine. I'm curious as to how much you think about what it means to make jazz when composing and arranging. Do you think about your music written for Big Heart Machine and Little as an extension of jazz or entirely separate? Do you ever make decisions when writing or editing your compositions because maybe something is not jazz enough? And do you think it even matters? I'm going to answer them in reverse order. No, I do not think it matters at all if your music is jazz enough or if it's aligned with jazz or improvised music. And no, I never think about any of those considerations when I'm writing music. And I would encourage everybody, no matter what kind of music you make, not to think about any of that stuff while you're writing. Just focus on being creative and don't worry about any self-conscious extra musical considerations. But yes, I do think of my music as an extension of jazz, but that's only because that's what I grew up listening to and what I grew up playing. So it's been a big part of my life. But I don't care if other people think my music is an extension of jazz, because I can't control or worry about what other people think. It doesn't have any bearing on me. It's easier said than done, but my genuine advice is to not worry about what other people might think of your music. I understand the impulse to want to be jazz enough, but really, this is going to sound so cheesy, but this is the truth. You are enough. So just focus on being creative every day. Focus on living an artistic life. That will lead you. God, that sounds cheesy, but I really believe it. All right, thank you, everybody. This has been a lot of fun. I do want to say thank you to my patrons for sticking with me during this sort of quiet time. I haven't made a lot of videos this year, and the reason for that is just my schedule is so busy. I'm traveling so much. I have 8 shows a week with this gig. I feel so lucky to be employed, but I also am finding it hard to find time to continue with this endeavor, but I'm doing my best. So thank you, patrons, for sticking with me, and more coming soon.